Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Lesotho with Teresia Dive. I'm Teresia Dive and I'm your host for this channel. So on this channel we discuss Lesotho as a country. We discuss its culture, its history, and anything else that a tourist or anybody who's interested in exploring African countries, and especially this African country, might want to know. If you are new, welcome, and I do hope that you're going to enjoy our content. And if you are not new, welcome back. So let's talk history. Today, we discuss the Kwena ancestry and the birth and the youth of the founder of the Basotho nation, Moshoeshoe I. We know him today as Moshoeshoe I, the founder of the Basotho nation, and he is hailed as one of the greatest kings in African history, the one who built an unshakable kingdom despite all adversity, despite wars, despite colonialism. But outside of that greatness, who was he? In the past videos, we talked about the Bantu people of Southern Africa. We said that they were divided into mainly two groups, being the Nguni group and the Sotho-Tswana group. We talked about how they migrated from the north of Africa to Southern Africa. And we talked about how they settled around Southern Africa once they arrived. And we did mention that the Sotho-Tswana groups mostly settled in Botswana, the Transvaal, or the Free State, or the land that we today call Lesotho. So it appears that at first, the area that we today call Lesotho was unoccupied. The Sotho-Tswana groups that settled around the Transvaal and the Free State settled there but never really went into the interior. However, when they settled in the Transvaal and the Free State, there were already some indigenous Khoisan people living there, which were the people that had occupied the land way before the Bantu people arrived. And we said that they lived in peace for some time, but because they had to share the land and the population was growing, there began to be conflicts and clashes, such that some of the Khoisan people moved into the interior, followed by some Sotho-Tswana people. And today, we're going to talk about one of those Sotho-Tswana groups that moved into the interior, which is very important to Lesotho history. Now, that group is the Bamokotedi, belonging to the Bakwena clan. And the Mokotedi lineage is particularly important because it is the lineage to which Moshoeshoe is said to belong. In the Kwena clan, Chief Monaheng of the Bakwena was the first to lead his people across the Caledon Valley into the area that we today call Lesotho, and his descendants then explored further and went further into the interior of the country, although it was not a country back then. Among his descendants that explored the interior were his two sons, Mokotedi and Motlwang. Now, Motlwang died before Mokotedi, but it is said that after he died, Mokotedi raised his son Pete as his own, and Pete started calling himself a Mokotedi, even though he was not biologically Mokotedi's son, and so did all his descendants. Pete then had Mokhatshane, and Mokhatshane with his wife Khodu gave birth to Lepoko, who we today call King Moshoeshoe I. So here's a breakdown of what we know about King Moshoeshoe's life in his youth. King Moshoeshoe was born in about 1786 in Menkgwaneng in the district of Leribe, near Botabute. He was born to Chief Mokhatshane of the Bakwena and Khodu of the Bafokeng. When he was born, his father was a minor chief in Menkgwaneng. And over his lifetime, he was given a lot of names. At birth, he was given the name Lepoko, a word for dispute, as there was a dispute ongoing in his father's village at the time of his birth. As many Basotho children at that age, he went to initiation school in his teens. There, he obtained the name Letlama, the binder, a good premonition of the role he would play in binding and uniting scattered peoples in Southern Africa. It was at initiation school that he met an initiation maid, Makwanyane, who would not only prove himself to be a warrior, but would also be Moshoeshoe's trusted right hand. After graduating from initiation school, he proved himself to be quite the warrior. He was outspoken and fierce and stood above his mates. He was also a very good cattle raider, an important and impeccable skill at the time when cattle were a symbol of power and wealth, and a man that had cattle was a real man. It was after one of these cattle raids that he obtained the name Moshoeshoe. He had sought out to raid a wealthy chief, Ramonahen's cattle, and he had succeeded in doing so. He equated the raid, which removed or degraded Ramonahen's masculinity, to having shaved his beard, which is also a symbol of masculinity. His name, Moshoeshoe, is said to imitate the sound of a blade as it shaves a beard. He even made a poem about the raid, saying, "Ke Moshoeshoe Moshoeshoeilane wa ha kadi le beola, wa ho beola Ramonaheng ditedu, le kajeno ha di so hlome, di tla hloma monongwaha." It was the name that he would since be called and known by. But Moshoeshoe was also called by other names, Tlaputle, the busy one or one who is all over, and Tesele, which means the beater. The latter name is still relevant today, as Basotho often refer to themselves as Setjhaba sa Tesele, meaning Tesele's nation. The name also appears in one of Kim Moshoeshoe's famous words, "O ka nketsang ha e ahe motse Tesele, motse ho ahwa mo Rapedi." By the way, and did you know that there are some people who believe that the name Moshoeshoe was not a coincidence, that it actually came from a historical context dating back to when Bantu people still lived in North Africa, in Egypt particularly. This theory stems from the fact that there was once an Egyptian king, Sheshong, who was also called the great chief of the Moshoeshoe, and that there seems to have been linguistic similarities between ancient Egyptian language and Bantu language, particularly Northern and Western Sotho as far as I could tell. The name Moshoeshoe would then be a namesake for the ancient Egyptian king whose rule the ancient Bantu people would have been under at one point, which would also explain the linguistic similarities. However, this theory seems a bit far-fetched. I looked into the theory and I must say that the language similarity really piqued my interest. But in general, this theory seems a bit far-fetched. So you can tell me in the comment section what you think about it or what you know about it. But from my findings, I couldn't really find how it correlates with the current name of Kim Moshoeshoe. But anyways, moving on to Kim Moshoeshoe's story. In 1810, Kim Moshoeshoe took his first wife, Mabela, whose marital name then became Mamahado. There seems to have also been a strategic marriage to strengthen Bakwena and Bafokeng alliance because just like Kim Moshoeshoe's mother, she was also from the Bafokeng clan. They had 5 children in total. Letsie, Molapo, Masopa, Majara, and a girl, Mate. Since this first marriage and his first child, he had many more children from his almost 140 wives. But it is said that when asked about his children, he would only list Queen Mamohato's children and rarely others from other wives. This can be for a couple of reasons. First, he had 140 wives and countless children. It would have been time-consuming and probably almost impossible to name them all. Secondly, this could have something to do with the level of marriages or houses, as they were called, that existed at the time, because there were levels to this thing. As the first wife, Queen Mamohato took the highest house and took precedence over the other wives, and if that was the case, then this would have also extended to her children. And in 1820, Kim Moshoeshoe set off to form his own village at the Botabote mountain a bit further away from his father's village. But he would have to find himself retreating to his father's village on occasion for shelter after being attacked by neighboring and passing clans. But he had quite a bad time at his village because that was around the time that the Difaqane were ongoing and there was a lot of drama and just disputes. So after a short period of disturbed settlement at Botabote, he asked his brother Mohale to go look for a better settlement. And after discovering the mountain Tababusiu, the Basotho sanctuary, he took his people and moved there through a gruesome, cold, deathly 3-day winter journey. But it paid off because it proved to be a much safer settlement, and it was from where he ruled his subjects and welcomed a lot more, creating the Basotho nation that we know today for over 50 years. Now, those of you who are not new already know that we have a Did You Know section for every video, and this video is no different. So, did you know that even though Moshoeshoe I was born to a chief, Chief Mokhatshane, who had fairly good leadership qualities and was fairly respected as a chief, Moshoeshoe did not immediately glean those qualities from his father. Of course, he wanted to be a great chief, and he knew that he wanted to be respected by a lot of people, but it seems he did not quite know how to go about it. And this was expressed in his violent ways that were made to get respect from others but served the complete opposite. It is said that as a young man, he killed about 5 people because they did not show him the proper respect. Some he said to have killed because they milked his cows without permission, and some because they were too slow in carrying out his orders. Obviously, these are not the qualities that anyone wants in a chief or a chief's son, because instead of serving to give him the respect that he so wanted, it served actually to isolate him and to deter people from wanting to be his subjects, because who wants a violent king? And it was probably because of this or other reasons that his elders, apparently his father and his grandfather, sent him to a great chief Moshoeshoe, who would play a major role in shaping his leadership qualities and making him the king that we know him to be today. In the next video, we're going to talk about exactly who Chief Moshoeshoe was and all of the leadership lessons that he expanded to Moshoeshoe I to make him the king that we know him to be today. And we'll be discussing those lessons one by one. Don't miss it.